How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good. I'm so
Can you
glad.
hear me now?
I can. Hey, curious, what do you see on the screen in front of you? Do
I
you see?
see it says clarity first,
Okay.
content second. And I see Camille and you.
Okay, cool. So that's what you see. Okay, cool. I was just curious on what you guys are
Yeah.
seeing. Okay, awesome.
Is that through Canva?
Yeah.
Cool. The person I know.
Yay.
Yeah.
So good to
Yeah, I
see
was
you.
excited that you're doing this.
I know,
Yeah.
good, kind of last minute, but that's kind of how I roll sometimes. People give me
Well, that
the need and I just kind of come up with something. So good to see you guys. Hey, Veronica. Hey, Stephanie. Good to see you guys' beautiful pictures and names and everything like that. So good to see you. Hey, Jan, I know that you are like as a participant, but would you be willing to be my helper? And if I make you co-host, would you be
sure.
willing to let people into the room? Is that too distracting for you?
Nope, I can certainly do that.
Just
No
in case,
problem.
just in case I miss it. So, okay, cool. Hey,
Yeah,
awesome.
I'd be
So good.
happy to.
Hi, Wendy. Good to see you. Heather, so good to see you guys. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Okay, well, what I want to do is I want to give you guys a brief overview of something that I prepared for you today based on the DM conversations I've been having over the last couple of days. And this is really tailored to what you guys have been telling me that you need. And then that way we'll have plenty of time for some Q&A. So I figured we would be all finished within, an hour and a half. And so I'll get through my training first, and then we'll reserve the last half of it for Q&A. So if we get done early, we get done early, but I want to make sure that you guys have all the time that you need for us to make this fruitful. So I wanted to say thank you for being here. I want to say thank you for, t taking time out of your Sunday and like I said, I wanted to create this specifically for you. And so I reached out to several of you guys who have commented on my posts that I've made the last couple of days, just asking what it is that you really need and how I can help with that. And that's really what this is all about. So and to get started, I'm just going to just say that there are some people here that might not know me and know my kind of background story. And so I felt like in order for us to kind of get this off on the right foot, I wanted to just acknowledge something. So my background is in anesthesia. So I was a nurse anesthetist and a professor and really was living what I would think would be my dream life. Like all the things that I had wanted to do and aspired to do and work towards, I was checking off the boxes, but something inside of me still felt off. And I really recognized that I was out of balance. The ambition and the climbing of my career really left my family and my time freedom and the things that I also held dear kind of in the wayside. And when I was introduced to of all things network marketing back in 2026, everything kind of shifted for me because what I started to recognize is that I can actually have the option of living the and life, meaning that I can do things that make an impact in the world and make me feel challenged and fulfilled and be a more present mom and wife. And I recognized in this moment that thank you, Jen. I recognized in this moment that this didn't have to be an either or thing for me, that I could use this as a gateway to really fulfill me and who I am. But you guys, here's the deal. At the time I was, and those of you guys, I don't think anybody on this Zoom actually knew me back. It's like there was like the LaChelle before and LaChelle after. The LaChelle before all of this really was shy, super self-conscious, very awkward socially. And I really just had this overarching fear of being seen and judged. And so I had 200 friends on Facebook. If you know, didn't grow up with me, if I didn't know your mom, then you didn't need to know my business. And so I did not accept, friend requests from people even the people that I knew that I didn't want to necessarily follow me. And the funny thing is that I wasn't even posting anything that was worth following. It was really just things like the occasional shared, Toby Mac inspirational quote or edited pictures of my kids. At the time I was dabbling in photography, had a photography business and the pictures that I shared of my kids were not the ones of them playing around the house. It was after I'd already processed them. And so it really just showcased how insecure I was and how hard I was on myself. And When I said yes to this business, I had to say yes to putting myself into situations that were uncomfortable for me. And I decided when I said yes to the opportunity that I was going to do everything I was being coached to do. And if it still failed, then I knew that it wasn't for me, but I at least did my best and tried my hardest, right? And so that meant that I had to start posting on Facebook. That meant that I had to start accepting and sending friend requests. That meant that I had to start getting vulnerable. And the thing that I found was that I didn't die. Honestly, like it's so funny how we catastrophize things in our minds, but I was so afraid. Just little things like posting Jesus calling devotionals. I felt like, gosh, people are going to think that I'm, some over the top religious person and they're going to think this and that and this and that. And I just got in my head so much. And what I found is that more and more people were inside my DMs saying, "Hey, LaChelle, I really appreciate what you're doing. Hey, LaChelle, you really get me thinking. Hey, LaChelle, I really appreciate your vulnerability." And it started to really snowball from that point. And I was able to grow that business from nothing to being at the top 2% of the pay scale in that company within about 10 months. And it caused me a major shift in who I was and allowing myself to prove to myself what I was capable of. But I also had to acknowledge that it was kind of personal development with paycheck. I was nervous and I did a lot of things that were scary for me, but I wanted to again know that if I did it, I did it to the best of my effort, right? And so fast forward a couple of years into that, I was still working full time. I was still doing anesthesia, still a professor. My business had grown, and I still had all my family opportunities and obligations. And I remember having this like kind of come to Jesus with myself, saying like, LaChelle, you went into this business so that you could have the time and financial freedom to be able to spend more time with your family, and you're spending less. And it felt suffocating and it felt like a lot of pressure. And it's like, okay, well, I get to decide. Either I give up or I figure out a way to do this differently. And I decided to find a way to do it differently. And so I created systems. I started to study, social media and marketing techniques. I started to really help myself understand what was necessary, and things started to shift for me. And after they started to shift for me, I decided to take my own network marketing team through my process to test it out to see how it was working with other people, and it worked. And so that led me to my social media workshops that I started way back in 2019. So I've been doing this for a long time. A couple of things about me, though, that I want you guys to understand context wise is that one thing I recognized when I did these social media retreats and these workshops is that I didn't enjoy having to be on top of all of the fads and all of the things that were literally changing every other day. Like today, reels are in, tomorrow it's this, now it's this. And if you guys are on social media, you know that all of a sudden you'll wake up and Facebook changed their entire layout. And now you have to find how to get access to different things in a different way. It's constantly changing. That did not light me up. I did not find a lot of satisfaction in being on top of all that stuff. So it really helped me to think about, do I want to do this consistently? And therefore, what you're going to find today is less about the hype and it's more about tried and true marketing and systems support that are going to help you guys to grow your business in a way that feels good. So that's my promise to you. Do I educate myself on the latest things? Absolutely. But do I promise you that that's going to be the crust of this situation? Absolutely not. That's not the goal here. Okay. The second thing that I noticed though when I was doing these social media workshops is that even though I was giving people all of the systems, every single thing that they could possibly need, and at the time, one of my offerings actually included an upsell with one of my assistants, and my assistant would literally create all of their Canva graphics for them. She would schedule all of their content into the social planner that I had chosen. And essentially, like everything was done for them. The strategy was done. But people still were having a hard time with getting stuck in their heads and the perfectionism that caused them to spend 4 hours on a post instead of, 10 minutes. It was the thing that were preventing them from being real and vulnerable, the things that would actually connect with their audience, because they were still having subconscious blocks that were preventing them from being seen and heard. And I related to all of that stuff. So that was really what led me to pursue, I guess, my certifications in life coaching and business coaching, because I'm like, gosh, so many of us invest in strategies, right? We want the masculine to-dos of like, just tell me what to do in order to grow my business faster. And that is so appealing for all of us. But what happens many, many times is that it's not the strategy that's flawed, it's the subconscious beliefs that we have underlining that are preventing us from executing them at all or executing them well. So I just wanted to say that all of this stuff is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I understand if you're stuck in some of those subconscious barriers that might be preventing you guys from showing up the way that you want to. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you for being real with me because that's like vulnerability, authenticity, being real is who I am. And I tend to surround myself. I tend to attract other people like me. So thank you for being here and helping me to be what I can be because of you guys. Okay, so um, are you guys seeing the second slide that I just switched over, or is it still in the first one? Okay, cool. Great. So, and just out of curiosity, is it like, do you see all the other things on my screen, or is it just you see all everything else? Okay, so it's not working the way I wanted it to. Okay, that's okay. So we're just gonna do this then. Um, I was trying to test some of this out before you guys got here, but this is what we're gonna do instead. Okay, is this better? Does this look a little cleaner? Okay, cool. Thanks, Heather, for your thumbs up. I appreciate that so much. Okay, so I'm gonna move you guys back over to the side here so I can see your beautiful faces. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna say as we get started is that my goal today is to help you have some clarity. All right. Now, the where we're going to start is, do you even need to add social media to your plan? Now, one of the things that I teach over and over again, you guys, is to trust divine discernment over what that strategy is. If I ask God, if I ask my highest self, if I ask source intelligence where I need to focus my time, and then follow through on that, I am more productive and more fruitful in one action than I would be in 1,000 of my own. And so this very well might be the one answer that's going to change everything for you guys. And you might be like, sweet, I'm going to log off because LaChelle, thank you for relieving the pressure that I don't even need to be here. Okay. So isn't that cool? So one of the things that I want you guys to do, if you already know this in your soul right now, awesome. If you are like, hey, I actually really appreciate this invitation and I'm gonna take some time when we're finished to ask that question. That's what I want you to do. And this is the framework in which all of my coaching is stemmed from, which is the flow state money method, which is number one, ask. Ask your highest self. Ask God. Ask divine intelligence what your next step is or what your strategies are. And if you ask, and I teach my clients this, I teach them to get into prayer, meditation, muscle testing, listening to their body and ask yes, no questions so that we're able to have this definitive, like, I'm going to ask and then I'm going to expect that this answer comes to me. And so I want you to ask, is social media part of your plan? And if it's not, then let go of any shame or guilt and just move on and let's do something else. Okay. But if you get a full body, when I say that, is social media part of your plan and you get a full body shivers, if it feels expansive, if it feels like exciting, if it feels like it's pulling you, yes, then this is what you need to be and where you need to be. Okay. If it feels like, ugh, nope, doesn't feel good, I'm getting, pressure in my chest, it's none of that feels good, then this is your out. Okay. But if it feels good and if it feels expansive, then the next step is to actually execute this. So if social media is part of your plan, your job in divine obedience is to actually do the damn thing, right? But so oftentimes where my coaching comes in as well is we ask first, we get into action. But if there's anything preventing you from getting into action, maybe it's a strategy leak, maybe it's a you need to learn something more, or maybe it's the toxic thoughts, a belief that you have to shift in order to be able to actually follow through on the strategy, then that's where other ways I could possibly help you come in. All right. But it's just a matter of acknowledging that and saying, okay, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do next. And these are just a couple of things that I need to button up. And what I want to do today, you guys, is to decrease any barriers that might prevent you from actually getting into action today. So I'm going to share some strategy and I'm going to share some belief shifting that might help you to have that exhale that I want for you. Okay. The next thing that I want to do before we get going is I just want to say something very boldly so that you hear me and I pause because it's this important. Your worth, my friend, is not tied to your social media metrics or your business success. Okay? This is so important that I need to pause here. The number of followers, the number of likes, the number of comments, how much your business converts is not tied to your worth. Everything that we're going to teach today is strategy, but you are already whole and enough the way you are. And I just want to make sure that I make that very clear distinction. Okay? Okay. So if you're here and you're like, all right, yep, social media is part of my plan. Yes, I know that this is what I want to do to grow my business. Then really, it really comes down to understanding the purpose of social media. Many people, and it makes me almost to the point of like angry when I feel like there are people out there that claim things that are just not true, to be honest with you. And they make it feel like you should be able to post once on social media, the post goes viral, people show up in your inbox, they're asking you how they can, give you your credit card number. And if that's not happening for you, there's something wrong with you. And that is not the case. And what I want to do today is tell you what actually is happening and what you can do to shift that. All right. But first, we have to really understand what is the purpose of social media in the first place, because then we can detach the I suck, I must not be good at this to what's actually going on. So lead generation. Lead generation is our opportunity to leverage the fact that people, half of actually, I think it's the statistics are 2/3 of the population of the entire world are on social media in some place. But that's huge. And so if I am not, if I've been guided by spirit to say social media is where I need to be, then I get to acknowledge like, holy cow, I am exposing what I do to people that would never possibly ever meet me. Right. And that's how I've met many of you guys in this Zoom room right now. I mean, I think about Heather McNally right here. We met because somebody that we both mutually knew attended one of my social media workshops. And that person introduced me to her upline who had me come in and do a training for one of their team retreats. And now Heather and I she's been a client of mine for years and we're friends, right? All because of social media. And so just knowing that the power of us being able to reach, my business is not local to Rochester, Minnesota. My business is literally across the world. In fact, Wendy Farrell and I are business associates and she's in Australia, right? So you guys, like we get a chance to reach broadly if we are leveraging social media. Now, the other reason that we want to recognize social media's power is social proof. So even if, let's just say that I wanted to just solely serve my clients base in Rochester, Minnesota, which is where I live, there are other people who do what I do. And so when I can use social media to help them get to know, like, and trust me, and help them to shift the way that they think and help them understand that I am credible and that I actually know what I'm talking about. People are more likely to not only choose me over my competition, but they're more likely to make a decision a little bit faster. And so recognizing that social media is an amazing asset that we all get to leverage. But when it becomes heavy and full of pressure, that's probably why you're here. You're like, all right, I know I want to use social media, LaChelle. I just don't want it to be the same thing that I have been doing. I want it to feel different. And that's what we're gonna really focus on today. Okay, so I want to give you some statistics, hot off the press as of today. So Facebook right now is sharing that they have about 3.2 billion users. There's between 2 and 3 billion users on Instagram. LinkedIn is about a billion. TikTok is 1.7 billion. YouTube is the second highest under Facebook actually, and it's almost approaching that 3 billion. And then Pinterest is about 520 million users. So there are a lot of people out there that are using social media that we can leverage. And most people are actually using a combination of several different platforms. I know that I have accounts for well, all of these actually. I'm not as active on LinkedIn and TikTok, but I have accounts, right? And so recognizing that we have access to a lot of people when we use social media. But you might be also saying to me, LaChelle, I am already consistent on social media. I am using social media, and just listening to you and seeing these numbers actually makes me feel discouraged a little bit because it's like, here I am, I have access to all these people, but it's not converting, it's not working. I must suck. There's something must be wrong with me. Going back to that word thing, like, friend, it's not your word, I promise. We're just going to make a couple of tweaks. But just know that this is what I want to do is look at this from a place of not disempowerment, but empowerment. Like, oh gosh, this is juicy. Like, what can I do with all of these numbers, right? And to kind of making my point too, when it comes to all of these people, is that not everybody is actually seeing your stuff. And this is a couple of, again, hot off the press metrics that I want you guys to just have awareness of, right? So this is interesting. And I have for years been telling people personally that I would rather post on my primary personal timeline than my business page. And there's statistics that show us why. So our reach is about 15 to 40% of our friends actually see our stuff if we're posting on our personal page versus only 2 to 6% of business followers. Organic reach on business pages is much, much less. And so my perspective has always been work smarter, not harder. If I'm going to post, I'm going to post like in one spot. I'm not going to try to manage multiple accounts. And I'm going to do the thing that feels the best. It's going to be the thing that's most aligned with my ideal client, and it's going to be the one that's probably going to give me the most reach. All right. And so for me, my primary focus is Facebook on my personal page, personally, because of my age bracket, because of who my ideal client is, and just because this is the thing that I have built over years of working my business. All right. Now, something I want to point out with Instagram, if you guys are on Instagram, is your stuff should be shown most likely to 10 to 30% of your followers, but it really does make a difference what you post and the engagement that follows within that first hour. Um, so if you can get things kind of moving right at the bat, which is why knowing when your ideal client is online is so helpful, right? Is because that first hour is really a magical time. LinkedIn, 20 to 40% of your connections, and connections are the key here. TikTok, if a video is performing, they'll push it out. So it doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with the number of followers you have. It's really the content of your video. And then YouTube and Pinterest, it really comes down to search relevance. And this is what I like about YouTube and Pinterest specifically, is that if you're listening to this, you guys, and I'm going to get into this in just a moment, a little bit more in depth, but um, when we recognize that YouTube and Pinterest, the content is going to last longer, okay? So it's more like a search engine where people can search for a topic and it's going to give them results with that search engine, kind of like Google, right? And so it's not going to be as temporary as an Instagram post or a Facebook post just disappearing after a day or two. It's going to something that's going to be stay around. And so the reason I'm pointing that out is that I think that a lot of us should in ourselves a lot, don't we? We think that we should be here, we should be there, and we should be on all of these because I don't know about you guys. I'm always vulnerable and authentic with you guys, and I tell you where my big blocks and butts are too, right? And one of my big blocks and butts has always been I'm an all or nothing thinker. So in my mind, if one action is good, 10 is even better because I can get there even faster. And so what ends up happening is I do a little bit of all of it and then I get burnt out and frustrated. Anybody else relate to that? Yeah, we're like, okay, this is what I want. And so then I think I have to be on all the damn things when you don't. And what I try to teach my clients, guys, is that when you can know who your ideal client is, and we're going to get into this in a little more detail in a moment, but when you know who your ideal client is, then I want you to ask yourself, where is he or she? Where are they hanging out and where do you enjoy hanging out the most? Because your vibes, your satisfaction, how much fun you have doing this is going to come across in your interactions with people metaphysically, biochemically, in brain science. Like I can tell you all the dang science, but that's not for today. But my point is that you have to give yourself a little bit of permission to not shit on yourself and say, what if I was able to choose the one that feels really good? What if I got a chance to not have to be on all the dang things, but got a chance to pick the one that felt the most aligned for me? And then when I was a photographer way back in the day, as I mentioned, one of the best advice I was ever given was rather than upgrading my camera, they said, LaChelle, upgrade your lens and learn your camera inside and out, every single feature. And so if you've decided, like, I really love LinkedIn and LinkedIn is where all my ideal clients are hanging out, then I'm going to use LinkedIn. I'm going to give myself permission to just focus on LinkedIn. And I can repurpose stuff elsewhere, that's fine, but I'm not going to allow the metrics of those elsewheres to determine whether or not I think I suck or if I'm successful or not. I'm going to focus on the one that I really want to hone in on, and I'm going to learn it. And I'm going to find the different features and I'm going to leverage them, and I'm going to really optimize that one thing, and I get a chance to give myself some grace and to not feel like I have to be everywhere. Does that make you guys feel better? Like less pressure? Oh, right? Like, exhale. I don't have to be everywhere. I don't have to do everything. I don't have to post 9 billion times a day. We just get into alignment. That's what I want for you guys. Okay. So, my best advice, and this is what I focus my social media workshops on, is really knowing who you're speaking to. Now, I don't know if you guys can see as clearly as I had hoped, but this picture, this video in the background is 3 different waterfalls that are all coming together to form one big waterfall. What this means is that when you know who your ideal client is so well, that all of the things that you do start funneling into this one beautiful waterfall that allows things to start flowing without pressure, without force. They just start to work together. And that's what I want for you. So when it comes to using social media and actually getting it to not only generate leads for you, but to allow for you to possibly convert those leads into actual sales and to really allow yourself to leverage the opportunity to grow your social proof and your expertise to these people, it really comes down to knowing who your ideal client is. Now, what I want you to be aware of, guys, is that there's a difference between target market and your ideal client. And what I teach is to get very specific, as if you are picking one person and you are giving that one person a name. And many times people freak out a little bit here. Your nervous system gets a little bit riled up because you're like, but LaChelle, if I narrow it down to one person, I'm going to miss out on all these other sales. And friends, that is scarcity. I'm going to give you a fun example. I give this example all the time because it's my best one. But my very first time that I ever invested in coaching, I spent $3,000 on a weekend of a group coaching program over, and it, guys, it was Labor Day weekend, and I signed up 3 days before the weekend, and I spent 3 grand because once I knew, and I was ready to take action. But this person specifically only marketed to Black female coaches. In fact, her Facebook group was Black female coaches. I'm not Black. But it did not deter me because her message was so on point. I felt like she was in my head. She spoke in a way that was so clear to people who were new on their coaching journey that it didn't matter the color of my skin. What mattered is that she knew exactly what I was thinking about. She knew what I was thinking about in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep. She knew what I was Googling. She knew the text message that I was sending to my business besties because her marketing was so targeted to people like me that I was able to convert like that. So don't worry about accidentally letting people out. I market to women, but I have an amazing gentleman in my coaching program right now who is a great fit because he resonated with my message. So don't to get stuck into the illusion and the lie that if you niche down, if you narrow down, that you're going to be missing out on sales because you won't. The secret here, though, is that you've got to get really clear on who it is that you're serving. Now, many of us can relate to this. Our ideal client is often us. Two steps 2 years ago, right? What have we had to overcome? What problem did we have that we needed to solve? And now, how do we want to help solve that for other people? And once you know the problem you solve and how you are the solution to that problem, then your next step is asking yourself, well, who has this problem? And this is what's going to help set you apart in the marketing, guys, because what you're going to find is that you're not speaking to the masses anymore. You're speaking to a woman or a man as if they're sitting across the table from you having a cocktail or a coffee. And you're getting real and you're getting authentic. And it's like you get deep and they're like, how did you get in my head? But you can't get there if you're trying to talk to everybody. Okay? And so it really takes some intentional work around dissecting who this person is and what they're willing to how aware they are of the problem and what they're able to invest in and um are they seeking the solution and those types of things. And when you can get that into your messaging, things will start to shift for you. But when you know your person, and I always tell people, give her or him a name and ask yourself when you post something, is this speaking to Nancy, my person? Is this speaking to her? Is she saying, oh my gosh, this is for me? Because if it's not, then I want you to redirect it. I'm all about working smarter, not harder. And so part of the burnout that we often have, happening is that we're trying to do all these things and we're throwing spaghetti against the wall and things aren't sticking and we're doing, and we're getting burnt out and we're getting frustrated and we think we suck. And then that just brings us down this spiral. And I don't want that for you guys. I want your actions to be as fruitful as possible. I want you to have the ability to do less and get more results. That's what I want for you. Okay. And so really getting to know your person, asking yourself regarding your person, where are they hanging out? What platform are they? Are they a YouTube person? Are they on Facebook? And these are the things that I help people do is I help them narrow down who that person is and help them to figure out where we can start answering those questions of what's keeping them up at night and getting in their heads and where are they hanging out and all of those things so that you can really target your messaging towards that ideal person. Does this make sense? Because this is really important part of this process. Okay, good. And then we'll be able to get into some question and answer that I can, if guys have questions on any of this stuff later, please ask. But this is one that I think I really want to make sure you guys understand because it's a key pillar to what I do. Okay. Now, so the other thing that I want to point out, and this is again where I get really frustrated with these experts that tell you that you should be able to post one time this viral content, and all of a sudden people are just showing up in your inbox, and that's crap. And then what happens is that doesn't happen, and then you start to feel like you're not doing something right. And that is not the case. What we have to do is to acknowledge the fact that when we go into social media, we have to know what is our purpose to begin with. Okay. So if your purpose is, LaChelle, I just want to make sure that if somebody sees me in Google and they're like, I wonder what else she's about, and they go and search me on Facebook or Instagram, and they're like, okay, all right, so she's actually working, walking the walk, talking the talk, all the things, and there's social proof, then that's awesome. So then just post away and get on with your life and spend your time doing everything of other things. Okay. But if your goal is to actually convert sales from leads, then a couple of key pieces need to be acknowledged. Okay. Social media, when it comes to converting leads, is like fishing. I cannot post and expect people to show up in my inbox with their credit card number. Now, does it happen? Absolutely, it can happen. But that is not the expectation. Okay? The expectation is that it is a lead generator and it is for you to then take something with those leads. And so I want you to think about it like fishing, all right? So you cast your line into the water and you get a bite. What is a bite? A bite is somebody that comments on your social media. It's somebody that maybe registers for a Facebook event that you do. Maybe it's somebody that reacts, gives you a heart or a like or whatever else the case may be. Okay? That's like a bite. And so your job is to take that bite and do something with it. Now in fishing, I have to actually reel it in. And then once it gets into my boat, I have to take it off the hook, right? And so this means that you get to actually do something with these leads. Now, not all of them have to be laborious, but I want you to understand that this it's not it's doing you guys a disservice if people are telling you that you can just post and all of a sudden just have hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. So what does this look like? It looks like, hey, like what I did to many of you guys, and this was genuinely me trying to make this even better, but guess what it did? It opened up doors, didn't it? I'm like, hey Wendy, hey Connie, I am so glad that you commented that you were interested in this training. I want to make sure that this is really fruitful. So tell me, where does social media feel heavy for you right now? And guess what? I had some amazing conversations with some of you guys. And now we got to know each other a little bit better. And now it doesn't feel like I'm just some stranger. And so then now I have this relationship built. And so all of a sudden, let's just say that Connie and I had a conversation and she mentioned something to me. And all of a sudden I see somebody else post something and I send it to her. I'm like, hey girl, I've thought about this for you. Or hey, after our conversation, I've been doing a lot of thinking and I created a guide that's gonna help just that. Would you like it? Would you like it? Now I created a freebie, right? An additional way to serve, but it's a relationship that we're building. Do you know what I'm saying, guys? And so that's the secret is to allow social media to be social. It's allow for you to not, and this is where our all or nothing, those of you guys who are all or nothings like me, we look at social media and let's just pretend like you have 5,000 friends and you're like, oh, I have 5,000 leads that I have to get through and have conversations with. No, you don't. You get to have conversations with the people who raise their hand. And now I take my 5,000 down to 10, and that feels doable, doesn't it? Ah, breathe again. So letting your content be the thing that helps you connect with the people that you're supposed to connect with. And then connect with those people and do it right, do it well. Nurture them, get to know them, be social. Who knows if they're going to be a client or maybe they're going to be the best connector ever, where they're just like, oh my gosh, LaChelle, you need to meet this person, this person, this person. You never know. We don't have an agenda. We just get to just expect that life is going to give us exactly what we're asking for. So getting in conversations, in DMs, it's going to look like, maybe you creating freebies for people based on these conversations and serving them in that way. And then what happens is they click on your freebie and now what? They're in your email list. And now you get to use your email list to nurture that relationship. You guys understand what I'm saying? Those are the systems that support all of this stuff. It's conversations and DMs. It's getting in their email. It's getting them. Now you have if you keep track, which is what I'm going to suggest that you don't lose track of people. And then you get to say, hey, I created this event just for people like you because of conversations we've had. I would love to invite you to that. If you can make it awesome, if not, that's okay too. And you allow for events to become part of your system. But notice how we get down on ourselves because things aren't working when we're just missing a couple of key pieces, huh? Right? Okay. Now, I also want to acknowledge something too, because when I train inside of my social media retreats and workshops and stuff, I like to use buyer psychology and buyer journey as part of the copywriting process. And it also helps you guys to understand that, again, not everybody is ready right now. So let me give you an example. When it comes to the network marketing company that I started this journey with was a skincare company, okay? So if you look at if I got into the mindset that every person with skin is my target audience, it would be easy for me to get down on myself because not everybody with skin was buying from me and I must suck, right? But the reality was is that not everybody with skin was my ideal client. My ideal client was somebody who was number one, wanting to make improvements in their skin. They were ready and they were looking for a solution. Now, that solution needed to be something that they, A, were either able to afford or willing to afford. There's a difference there, right? Because I had people that have been super resourceful. Heather's one of them. Heather was super resourceful when it came to the first time we worked together. She's like, I can't afford this right now, but I'm figuring it out. And she did because she was ready, right? And so I had to look at this. I'm like, who's ready? Somebody, just because somebody has acne doesn't mean that they necessarily want to do something about it. Just because somebody has bags under their eyes doesn't mean that they're wanting to wash their face. So they had to be looking for a solution. They had to be willing to pay for the solution I offered. My solution was a clinical grade skincare. It wasn't at the time. I wasn't aligned with the holistic viewpoint that I have now. And so I was looking for people who wanted clinical grade skincare. They had to be in that in that subset. But sometimes they maybe just weren't quite ready. And so that's me understanding the buyer's journey. That sometimes people just need a little extra time. They need more proof. They need more shifting of their beliefs. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. Okay. So when it comes to buyer's journey and buyer psychology, there's three main parts of the journey that I'm just going to briefly touch on. Number one is top of funnel. This is where when you're posting, you guys, you are getting her to say, "Holy cow, how did she get in my head?" This is when he or she is literally subconsciously or consciously raising their hand saying, "That's me." So when your content can be so descriptive and on point with like, "Oh my gosh, how did she know?" You're going to get people to consciously and subconsciously choose to be in your circle. They're going to choose to want to be around you more. They're going to seek you out more. Okay. This is top of funnel. Middle of funnel is when you start to shift her assumptions or his assumptions. This is where you bring in your unique perspective and you say you think you needed this, but actually this is the real problem. And this is middle of funnel. This is where a majority, like 75% of our content needs to be in order to convert because it's us getting them to think about things differently. So that way, when it's time, when their timing has gotten there, now they're ready to do something about it, you're going to be the first person they think. Does that make sense? And so our content has to be aware of this buyer journey and to make sure that we're incorporating pieces of all three. And again, this comes back to knowing your ideal person so stinking well that you know what their assumptions are. You know what in their head. You know what the solutions that they're looking for. And your copy is calling them out or your training if you're on YouTube, right? Or your blogs that you lead people to inside of Pinterest. Like these are all geared towards your ideal person. Now, I talked a little bit about how when we looked at Instagram and Facebook and all of these and how small the person the percentage of people that actually see our stuff, right? Is and what can I do to actually make that better? And some of the things that I want to leave you guys with today when it comes to your copywriting is to recognize that comments are going to be more effective in getting your the algorithm to show your stuff. And then next is shares. Next is saves, next is reactions, and next is views. Okay. So the more you can get people commenting, the more likely your stuff is going to start getting shared. And early traction the algorithms currently is key here. So if you can get people commenting in that first 30 to 90 minutes, it's going to be more likely the algorithm's going to push it out. And this is what other people probably aren't teaching you. What I want you to do is not be like, comment yes if this, whatever, or drop a blah blah emoji. Now I do that sometimes on purpose. But if you are specifically looking at engagement, I'm going to ask you to use CTAs that trigger an emotional reaction in a conversation. Tell me below which part of this really resonated with you. That's one. If you're like, shout out where the biggest hurdle that you have regarding this is. Let's have a conversation. Tell me, tell me that I'm not alone in this. What's been your experience? Do you guys see the difference? Yeah. And so what you're doing, again, all of these pieces come together. Think of that waterfall fall picture or video that I showed you. When you know your ideal client so well that you already know what she's thinking, you already know her fears, you already know what she's tried and what hasn't worked. You already know what she thinks she needs to do, but really she doesn't. And then you can allow for these to have a a meaningful relationship building. Not only is that going to bump you in the algorithm, but now you're going to have that much more leadway into those amazing one-on-one conversations, right? Is this making sense? Okay, cool. All right. So, a couple of things. Again, if you can't tell, I am a big advocate for you guys, and I don't want you to get ever into this trap that social media equals my worth, and that if I'm not getting the followers, if I'm not getting the conversions, I'm not getting the whatever, that there's something wrong with me. Oftentimes just tiny little tweaks, right? But there are some things that you can't control. You can't control if your audience are not problem aware yet. Think of that buyer psychology journey. Maybe they they know that they don't. I'm going to think of my skincare example because that's where I started this whole journey, right? So if I think about she's not feeling herself lately, but she hasn't necessarily picked up on that it's the actually like that her skin is not healthy and that her eyes are baggy and she looks tired because of that. So she's not necessarily aware that skincare might be the solution because she's not aware of the problem yet, or that she doesn't even see, like for real. I think this is hilarious, but like I looked, my whole journey with that started with one day I looked in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, what happened to me? I looked old. I had saw bags and wrinkly skin under my eyes. And I'm like, oh my God, I look like 10 years older than I think I should. And that's when I was ready. But guess what? I look back at pictures now and my eyes looked the same a year before that, but I just never noticed it. So sometimes your audience just isn't aware yet, and that is just takes time. Okay. Which is why consistency is so important. And again, the readiness piece. Maybe the problem hasn't gotten as difficult yet to push him or her over the edge. It's like maybe it's not painful enough for them to do something with it yet. That's not on you. That's their life's journey. Our job is to make sure that people know that our campfire exists, and we want to make sure that they want to be around our campfire. And that when something changes and when they become aware and when they become ready, we're there. But we cannot rush that. We cannot control that. That's when sales feels spammy and slimy and icky, doesn't it? When we're forcing somebody to be ready before they're not. Acknowledge it. It's okay. And then lastly, that other person might have some subconscious blocks. Many of us in this call tonight admitted that we have our own. So what makes you think that the other person on the other end of that conversation in DMs doesn't have their own, right? Maybe they think that they're not cut out for this. Maybe you're in network marketing and you just want to, you think this person would be the most amazing member of your team. But maybe they don't believe that they have what it takes. That is not yours to control. We can add things inside of our content to help them see what's possible. But at the end of the day, we can influence people. We cannot control them. Okay? You do not suck if you're not converting every single lead. It's not within your control. Okay? Does that make you feel better? Less pressure? Hopefully. All right. So, what is the solution to this, right? We already talked about one pillar, which is ideal client specification, knowing him or her so well, more than they even know themselves. That's one of my pillars. That's one of my secret sauce. Okay. The other is consistency. Consistency is king because you being consistent on the platform that you're being led to focus on with the content that is speaking directly to your ideal person, your consistency is what's going to overcome the fact that the algorithm is not showing it to everybody every time. Your consistency is what's going to be there when their part of the buyer journey starts to shift. Your content and your consistency is what's going to be there when they're ready. But if you are like many of us, and I'm curious, you guys, like, I wish that I could see all of your faces a little bit bigger. But how many of you guys can relate to this? Okay, so again, my all or nothing brain is my biggest saboteur, I promise you. So what happens with me is I will get like super like fired up. Like you go to your network marketing conference and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. Or you get off the phone with your coach and you're like, yeah, I can do this. And then you just like do all the dang things and then you burning yourself out because you're posting like 9 times a day. And now all of a sudden you're like, your husband's having an intervention. My had several interventions with me. He's like, LaChelle, you're on your phone all the freaking time. Like you said, you did this for freedom, but we never see you. Like you're on your get off your phone, right? So that's what happens with me is I'm all in. Or something happens, I go on vacation and I give myself permission to slow down, or I don't feel good. And all of a sudden I'm down, and then it takes me like a lot to get myself back going again. It's like, okay, all right, here we go. It's like that wheel is really hard to move up the mountain, right? So it's like balls to the walls or nothing at all. Like that's been a pattern of mine, right? So consistency is what we aim for, but how do we do it being real people? And this is where systems come in, guys. This is where systems comes in. Pressure is optional. Pressure is optional. So what do I mean by systems? This is where one of the things that I do inside of my social media retreats that I put on is I actually help people, number one, get really clear. Like this is where we spend a lot of our time together on who my ideal client is so that I can get my messaging down really, really well. Then I utilize some proprietary AI techniques that I have and worksheets that I have to let something else work for me so I don't have to do everything. So we do a lot of AI stuff. So if you're not using AI, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Okay. Automate things. Let the pressure fall off. Work smarter, not harder. Now, I know that like Stephanie on here, she is really, really great at Reels. Right? So, or Heather does some amazing TikToks. You can use AI to help you script out what you want to say on those reels and those TikTok videos. Being guided by, again, who is your dream ideal client, right? The other thing that I like to do inside of my workshops is I help people then, we come up with a strategy that's based on what platform is best for your ideal client, because I don't want you on all of them. I want you to on the one that feels good to you, but is also the one that your ideal client's been hanging out the most, right? And then we base your strategy, how many times I'm going to post, what time am I going to post, based on who that person is and what works with your life too, and what your goals are. Because me slapping on a cookie cutter, post this many times a day here and do this, is doing you a disservice. You guys are each individual people and your ideal client is. So figuring out where that sweet spot is for you and your goals so that you don't burn yourself out and put yourself a bunch of pressure that doesn't need to be there, right? But is doable enough that you can maintain consistent even when life gets life. right? And then what we also do is we schedule out content. So what I do is I help people plan out. Ideally, we do 3 months at a time. And some people are so efficient that they can get a year's done in that weekend that we do. And so if you can at least get 3 months content out and you get it curated and you get it scheduled, guess what happens? The pressure starts to fall away because you don't have to worry about the fact that you're on vacation. It's already being out. It's already out there. You're already consistent without you having to worry about it. When your kids get sick or when something happened and you can't get your mind in the creative zone, you already have content. Now, those people like me who are love the creative part of it, but if you're creative like me, you probably also have pressure when you're not feeling creative, huh? Yeah, that doesn't feel good, right? So what happens then if instead I'm actually able to know that there's a base foundation of content that's already being scheduled and already put out there, so I don't have any of the pressure because I'm already serving my clients. But then when I'm being inspired, I can get on live and I can do a post or I can do a post out of nowhere that just feels like it's been inspired by spirit. And I'm doing it from a place of ease and joy and flow, not pressure. And my vibration is much different, isn't it? And guess what happens? Again, coherence is that my audience can feel that and they're like, "Ooh, that really resonated with me." But if you're constantly trying to put pressure on yourself to be creative and having that all the time, that's partly why you can't, is because of the pressure. So if you can have a system where you have stuff already scheduled out and give yourself permission to repurpose some of your content. Because remember, guys, is that let's just say that 10% of people even see your stuff. If you repurpose that same content in a couple of months and 6 months, they're not going to probably have either not seen it or they're not going to remember, right? Stop shooting on ourselves and let this be fun again. And let this be like, ooh, how can I speak to my ideal person? Another thing that might help when I think about I have a lot of different offers. I know that Shelby and I have talked a little bit about how like we both have many hats that we wear and I have multiple income streams. But one secret that many people don't acknowledge, guys, and this is how this is able to work for me, is that all of my income streams ideally serve my ideal client. I have multiple ways that I serve my ideal client. When I think about Wendy and you use Solex and you have your coaching stuff, like they're both two things that serve your ideal client, right? But we have multiple things that we could be promoting. And so, thinking about it in terms of, okay, I have my ideal client. This is the problem that he or she has and I solve it. And then I write down like all the different ways I solve it. Oh, I have this freebie, I have this event, I have this, invitation to a conversation, I have this program, whatever. I can start thinking about in terms of like rotating those things, right? So I'm going to give you an example, right? Let's just say that my ideal client is a woman who's already making money, but she's not making money consistently. So she wants to make that 10,000 K month or 10K months consistently without constantly burning herself out, constant pressure. Okay. So that's the problem is that she wants to make it, but she's not consistent and she's burnt out, right? That's a problem I solve. So my solution is I use things like my coaching, right? My solution is my workshops that I do. My solution is Solex. My solution is all these different things. My podcast can be a solution with a free resource, right? So let's just say then that I am able to think about, okay, so that's the problem I solve. Then I can think about, okay, so my who has that problem? Well, again, she is a woman. She's wearing lots of hats. She's got her family. She wants to travel. She wants freedom, but she's feeling stuck. And she's constantly like in this like up and down, like start, stop, and it feels heavy, right? Well, what is one of the reasons why it's heavy? Maybe it's that she's caught in her head and she's perfectionism. So what if I was able to take perfectionism as the problem? and I'm able to post something on, let's just say top of funnel, like describing what that looks like. It looks like I did this the other day. It looks like me telling my husband, hey, hon, I just need to get this post out because I want to be consistent. I just need a couple minutes. And it's 45 minutes later, and I look over and he's asleep because my perfectionism creates these cycles where everything takes me about 9 times longer. No wonder I'm burnt out, right? See how that's the top of funnel where I'm describing it so much that she's like, oh my God, that was me last night, right? If this is a problem that you have, then click here or tell me about this more. Does that make sense? Like I can take the different offerings that I have and I can tie them into the problems that I know that they have and how I can help solve them. And that's how you can introduce. And so going back again to systems, systems will take the pressure off of things. So maybe I've created a system where every Monday I post about something related to Solex. Maybe every Tuesday I make sure that I address some kind of a testimonial Tuesday. Maybe every Wednesday I uncover a subconscious block that's preventing my ideal person from being successful. Maybe every Friday I do this. Does that make sense? So thinking about it in terms of there might be some systems that you can just play with inside of stories or inside of YouTube videos or inside of things that allow you to have a cadence. So that way it doesn't feel like so much pressure, be like, oh my God, what am I going to post today? And again, if you have all this stuff pre-scheduled, then that makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? But sometimes just having a structure around which to put things is going to help to kind of take all of those things. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I want to make sure that I at least invite you guys to this before we get into the Q&A because I want you to know that there is a solution if you are looking for this. So, next weekend, I have on my calendar, I blocked off and I reserved my own lakeside Airbnb to host a in-person social media workshop. But I also am going to offer it virtually for people like, if Wendy's in Australia and doesn't want to come to Minnesota in January, which I don't blame her, we have that option as well. And so this is just an invitation for you guys to look at this as a potential resource for you. Completely no pressure at all. But if you're like, I do need some help with this and I want some accountability, what we're going to do is we're going to ideally help you plan out a year's worth of content, focusing on your ideal client and the strategy that is built for you. So it's a custom build. And I make these very small and intimate so that people get the attention that they need so that we can create a custom strategy for every single person with that accountability. And sometimes, honestly, I've had people tell me that the accountability is probably the biggest part of this, is just that I have to sit down and do this because I know that I have your support, LaChelle, that if I have a question, then it's forcing me to actually take time out of my schedule to get this done. So sometimes it's literally just that's what people need. But I wanted you to at least know that this is here in case you need a little bit more support over this, okay? And if there's anything else that I've talked about where you're just like, oh my gosh, LaChelle, I need a little bit more support around some other things, just like let me know and we'll have a conversation. Because what I love to do is I love to give people what they need, not what I want to sell them, right? Like I've had conversations with several of you guys. I'm like, let's just figure out if this is even something that I even want to offer because I'm not going to have you waste your time or your money. So if you're needing some support, just know that I'm here. And if you're ready and want it, okay? Okay. So all of that, what's going on in your minds? What questions do you have? How can I apply this to your unique situation so that you feel supported right now? And feel free to take all of you guys, feel free to take yourself off of mute and let's just have a girls conversation with people to know that you guys are being supported. Jan, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, as you know, not kind of, I am ready to get started on setting up and starting my business.
Yeah.
And I just want to, know where to start. What is my first step? You've talked about all this, and I've been working on some of those things you've already talked about my, the client I want and all the stuff like that. But I just want to know how to introduce myself, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
to
Oh my
get
God.
started. So it's not like, And then I'm going to use my personal
Yeah.
one, because I do have a business
Yeah.
one, but I'm not going to use
Mhm.
that one.
Yeah.
So, how do I make it so it's a good
I love
start?
I
That's what
love
I'm
that.
saying.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking that such a great question. And I love that I get to answer this in this way.
Yeah,
So the
thanks.
very first step is literally just to know who you serve, right? And so this is where sometimes people
Right.
need a little extra support around this, but if you already know, just ask yourself, okay, what problem do I solve? Right?
Okay.
And
Hmm.
then so what problem do you solve? And I'm going to ask you that right now. What problem do you solve?
Well, that is something I do have kind of already.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so, like after a big loss,
Hmm.
many people get stuck in emotional overwhelm.
Hmm.
And my program, or I could say it that way, I'm not sure if that's how I want to say it,
Yeah.
helps them release the pain of the past so they can welcome a future of joy and happiness.
Mhm.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna add a little bit like just a small tweak to it. Adding the emotion that describes the
Yeah.
problem will really help
Ah,
with this, right? So what emotion is a tied
yes.
to this problem? So somebody has loss and you help them to regain,
Mm,
but where are they? Where would they be when they came to you in emotionally? What are they struggling with?
mm. They're struggling with trying to move on, trying to get past that and seeing what their life is like.
Yeah,
They're well, they're definitely overwhelmed. They're
yeah,
just they're
yeah,
sad, they're
yeah,
grieving.
yeah.
Um, so
Mhm.
just add that to it or something
Absolutely,
along those lines. I
absolutely.
can
So do you
certainly
guys
do
see,
that.
do you see
Thank
what
you.
I'm saying with that? So that people can be like
Hmm.
subconsciously and consciously, they're like, oh, that's me. Like somebody
Hmm.
who's
Yep.
somebody who has experienced loss and is feeling
Hmm.
stuck in the grief cycle, in the sadness cycle, maybe
Yeah.
even guilt around getting better.
Yeah. Anger,
And
because there's some of that
yeah,
too.
and then want to experience this.
Okay.
Okay. So that's my first thing is just
Yes.
utilizing emotions as much as we can so that people can be like consciously and subconsciously, that's me. Okay. Now, the
Okay.
other thing that I want to point out too, and I love this so much because you are not alone in this. So many of us overthink things, don't we? We make things way more complicated than
Hmm.
they have to be. And so you said to me, LaChelle, how do I reintroduce myself?
Hmm.
Well, how would you, if you had a guess, how would you reintroduce yourself?
Hmm. Um, that's a good question. I think I'd just be me and put out there who I am and what I have experienced,
Sounds good.
and just letting them know that they that I've been through it,
Yeah,
so I can relate with them.
absolutely.
Does that sound like a good start?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the point is that what if it was that simple? What if it was easy? What
Yeah,
if it
I
was
need
easy,
one of
what would
those.
you do? If it was easy, what would you do? Well, I would just go on Facebook and I'd
I
reintroduce
probably,
myself. Right?
yeah, tell my
And
story a little.
yeah, and so I want to just recognize, guys, that sometimes if that's that one little tiny question will change your life if you use it. What if it was easy, what would I do next? And that oftentimes will get us
Okay.
out of the overthinking cycle where we complicate it. The other thing that I see happening a lot, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that we think that there's a right or a wrong way to do something. So oftentimes that's why we're overthinking is that I don't want to do it
Mhm.
wrong, so I don't. But what if instead of thinking about something as right
Uh-huh.
or wrong, what if we started looking at it as good, better, best? What if
Mhm.
we just acknowledge that any activity at all is good? Because action is what creates confidence, not the other way around. So what if just doing something is good and then you learn and
Mhm.
you create better and then eventually get best? And we stop catastrophizing what could be wrong and we just start to allow ourselves to experiment and play and take the pressure and the shoulds off of it and just be like, well, if it was easy, what would I do? Well, I would do this. Awesome. That's a
Mhm.
great way to start. And I would have to I can do this if you want me to quickly log in, but it's funny that you asked this because one of my clients, as you know, Molly King, literally posted today,
Mhm.
and Molly went to my workshop last year, and Molly's posted today,
Right.
so you guys can go on her profile on Facebook if you want to. But Molly literally just did Molly K. King, and she did this picture of herself. It was just a picture, and it said, "Hey, I haven't introduced myself for a while, and a lot has shifted, but underneath it all, I'm still the same." And she just, and then she talked about who she still is that identifies with her ideal client, right? And then the fact that she adopted a little boy, and then she's like, "I help women who blah 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 blah. Whether you're new
I
here
like
or
that.
been connected for a while, I'd love to get to know you better. Let's chat for real." That's what she said. And that's just her, right?
Mhm.
Just be you guys. That's what people want. And as you do things, I look back on and people are so afraid of messing things up. And I love to help people get to that good, better, best when I work with them. But if I go back to my Instagram from when I started, it's fun to watch and look. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually posted the other day my very first reel I ever did. It was terrible. But if we don't start somewhere, then we can't celebrate the growth. Good, better, best. Okay. Okay. Does that help, Jan?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, I think it's
Good.
just that first step, And I
Yeah.
did see Molly's
Yes.
page, and I
Good.
was like, oh, because we she and I just talked yesterday, so
Yeah.
and this was
That's
kind of what we talked about.
amazing. So there you go, right? And
Yeah.
so, and oftentimes, again, and Winnie, I'm gonna get to you in just a second, but that all or nothing, the momentum thing that, ugh, I have to do this. You guys, this is something really simple, but every day I go in and I send people birthday messages and Facebook messengers. So if you've had a birthday, and we've been friends, you've gotten one of those from me. Part of the reason I do that is A, I love blessing people. B, I love the fact that if we talk about business things, that's not the only time I've ever shown up in their inbox. I love the fact that they know that I'm a real person who genuinely cares about them. But C, it's such a great momentum starter for me because I have to get myself into good vibes to be able to send those high cheery messages. And just that tiny little action that takes 30 seconds or less actually gets me into action. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to get to work. So maybe just try something like that. Okay. All right, Wendy, what do you have for me?
This has been just so amazing, LaChelle. It's like, yeah, you've been in my head. Yeah.
Good.
It was so good, because I'm an all or nothing person. Um, my problem is my business. Uh, my clients have all come to me through either referrals
Hmm.
or my website.
Hmm.
And I've really done nothing. My husband created my website and I've done nothing with it.
Hmm.
But that's where people have come and found me.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been through social media at all.
Mhm.
So it's been a real challenge. And I've actually been spending time with God going, okay, because I'm trying to sort of reduce my workload.
Mhm.
And he's been saying to me, okay, I want you to start a podcast and get on YouTube. Now, I have not done YouTube at all,
Okay.
and it is freaking me out. And um, and yeah, so YouTube and Pinterest is actually where he's been telling me to go. And it's interesting because I've like looked at where my clients
Hmm.
do hang out, and that is where they do hang out. They're not on Facebook, they're not on Instagram or TikTok or any of those platforms.
Hmm.
So I'm realizing, okay, I'm gonna have to pivot because really I've only been on Facebook and I've not really done much on there myself because
Yeah.
I'm the all or nothing kind of person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so like yeah, so I'm like, okay, now where do I start and what do I do? And because I didn't want to put my face out there, I do not enjoy doing that. So that's something I need to deal with. But and God's been working on that with me. But so like he's saying, well, just put your voice out then, because it's the voice that
Yeah,
I need to get out.
100%. So number one, I'm going to acknowledge that nice job of using discernment first. Step one is ask. And you were guided to, you don't have to be on all the things, but he's leaning you towards YouTube and a podcast. And this is
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, so your discernment is pointing you in a very clear direction. So the next step in obedience is act. And then I ask myself, okay, well, why am I not being obedient? And that
Mm.
sometimes there's toxic thoughts that we have to shift, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it literally is just as simple as asking myself, if it was easy, what would I do? And so if it was easy, what would you do?
I'd just do it.
I mean, I listen to YouTube videos all the time that don't have anybody speaking. It's actually just like a it's a voice and it's like a video of water,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Like podcasts can be video. I started my podcast literally. I learned from Jenna Kutcher way back in the old days that sound quality in a master bedroom closet is really good because of the clothes. And I
Yeah.
literally had my computer on the floor and my podcast mic, and I sat in my bedroom closet and I recorded my
Okay.
podcast. And
Okay.
and Heather just started a podcast. I have had one for a long time. There's people in your circle that you know that can help you get started. But the point is that oftentimes we're like, but it has to be this way. It does not.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that doesn't mean that you can't someday reach towards you seeing yourself more and taking yourself
Yeah.
into little baby steps and stuff. But good, better, best, what's a good place to start?
Just record.
Just
Just my
record. And
voice.
what if you just repurposed the podcast into a YouTube video?
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because I do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I do both. My
Okay.
my podcast episode, it streams on all the podcasting channels, but it also goes on YouTube.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, it
And
did. Yeah, it's
yeah,
given me clarity. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then using some of the things that I mentioned already, right? Like knowing
Yeah.
who your ideal client is will
Yeah.
help you, because one of the things that as a podcaster who's been doing it it's been almost 6 years now. Next
Yeah.
month it'll be 6 years for me, weekly. One of the biggest things that I've struggled with is how do I decide what to talk about, because I've been talking for so long that I'm like,
Yeah.
what else could I talk about? Right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
some of that's a belief of me, like, well, why can't I talk about something again, but I have a different perspective on it, right?
Yeah.
Or I utilize things like AI to help me guide. Hey, give me some ideas around this. This is what my ideal
Yeah.
client needs. Give me some ideas around this. And so just know that there are systems that you can do to take the pressure off of it.
Okay.
But what I want to do, my goal for you is to help you to take aligned, inspired action of what you've already been
Yeah.
instructed to do from spirit. So
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. It's been so good.
good. Okay, excellent. Nice job. Oh my goodness. Connie, what do we have for you, my friend?
Well, I'm just excited to listen to all this and uh, realize that I'm in a morphine time where I accidentally started a private group called Creative Believer Sanctuary. And the reason I say accidentally, I wanted it to be private because I wanted it to be a safe community. But people started joining before I could even ask them the questions. So I asked the Lord if I should shut it down and start private. And the sense is go with it for now. So that's been interesting. And the only reason I'm telling you that community
Mhm.
is that I'm being, how do I say this? A subgroup of the people I want to serve. They're definitely creative believers, but I'm finding that I'm an empath and a highly sensitive person, and I have been going through tools to how to care for myself in that process. And I believe I'm being groomed to offer those to other people. So I guess my question is, because I'm a highly sensitive person, because I'm an empath, I don't want to just be on my Facebook page to all the people in the world, which I have a lot of followers. I really want to target my people. So I guess my question is being a creative believer that's highly sensitive or an empath too niche down? Okay. That was my first
Let
question.
me ask you this. This is a perspective shift for a lot of people. Okay. Um, now remember, this is kind of the end game result here, but if you had 100 clients
Mhm.
that were creative believers that were very empathetic, if you had 100 clients, would that change your business?
Well, first of all, it would be a miracle, but
Okay,
second,
but
it would change my business. But I'm going to be real vulnerable here.
yeah,
Part of being an empath is I don't want to be a coach for
yeah,
people like I don't want to be a coach for people like me
that's
because
okay.
I'm new at not in picking up on the pain, and it takes me a while to let go of it. But
Yeah,
I have tools that can help them help themselves. That means
absolutely.
so it's a
Yeah.
digital product or whatever. I
Uh-huh.
guess, and I guess it's kind of intertwined my question because I'm thinking out loud that maybe marketing to um, a creative believer sanctuary group of people that I can so relate to and they can relate to me. And then that empath piece is going to be a part of them,
Yeah,
but it's a safe way to be vulnerable
absolutely.
versus going to Facebook to all my peeps from high school.
A lot of people feel that way. They feel like going, a lot of my network marketing friends feel that way. I'm gonna say, so Heather and I met because of her former company was Touchstone Jewelry, right? And a lot of people felt safer peddling their jewelry inside of a group where people chose to be there than in their normal whatever. And honestly, I completely relate to that. And that was a belief that I had to shift.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
okay because that was part of my process and part of my journey. And
yeah,
part of it is going to be getting the people who are supposed to be in that group to know about it, right?
yeah,
And
yeah. I know.
so, and so
Got to start somewhere, though. Practice.
you'd absolutely, and so that's my point is that good, better, best, start with what you're comfortable with. Build up those comfort muscles. And that's what I would tell people to do is to go into your groups and be all of who you want to be without fearing that people are going to judge you. And as you do that, it's going
Yeah,
to build your confidence muscles. So then
yeah,
you're going to start to be like, okay, now I'm ready for this. And that's okay. Good, better, best. Remember?
yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I don't believe in too tight of a niche. I don't. Because again, if you look at this and you know, it sounds like there's a little bit of clarity around what your business, you know, the real focus is. And so but I'm just saying to any of us guys is that if you had 100 clients, would that change your business? And I would say all of you would be like, uh-huh. Awesome. So do you believe 100 people in the world exist that fall into that tiny little category? 100%, right? So our chances of um we're not going to exclude people by niching down too much is what I'm trying to say. Is that just speaking to those people and let them essentially raise their hand out of
Yeah.
sea of people is going to help that happen. So, yeah.
And I appreciate that because when I'm listening to you, I just had a ha ha thinking about it differently. I
Mhm.
could create a YouTube that could go out to the masses and maybe not start with my personal Facebook, do it another way.
Absolutely. And then this is where I'm going to ask you guys to go back to the discernment piece. This is a whole layered topic that I have, but I feel it's worth acknowledging. When we think about the knowledge that we have, everything because of our reticular activating system gets filtered through our brain and our brain decides what's important or not, right? And so when I think about everything that I know has to be hinged upon the experience that I've had, the things that I've learned. And if I look at the existence of all things possible, my brain knows about this tiny sliver of what's out there. And so when I open myself up to spirit, when I open myself up to God, when I open myself up to source intelligence that knows all things beyond my tiny little sliver of perception, I will then know what to do next. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes people are like, oh, I think I should do this. And they hire coaches to tell them what to do, and they ask their friends, and that's fine. But what I want you guys to do is start to trust that there are answers available to you if you ask for them. And then
Yeah.
start to learn how to trust your discernment, to ask yes, no questions and say, should I do this? Yes or no. And so that's what I'm going to have you do, is go into your prayer time muscle test, meditate on that and say, should I go to YouTube? Yes or no? And then
Got it.
and this is sorry, I'm going to go down this path for just a brief minute, but
Mhm.
oftentimes when it comes to this discernment piece too, what helps is, okay, should I do this? Yes or no? Should I do this now? Yes or no? Or
Mhm.
should I do this in the next year? Yes or no? And then I take the year and I down to 6 months, the next 3 months, the next 1 month, and the next week. Should I do it now? And that helps you guide so that you know where you should focus your time and energy, so that you're not scattered trying to do all the damn things. You're literally just asking yourself, okay, if it was easy, what would I do? And then confirm it. Lord, is this what you want me to do? Yes or no? And then
Yeah.
lean into that and just
Yeah.
take action. But if you're not, that's where things like I do inside of my group coaching is identifying where are the blocks that are preventing from acting, and where's
Mhm.
the lack of knowledge that are preventing from acting, and how can we fix those cracks, right? And that's
Yeah.
it. As simple as it is. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
I love it. Thank you. I want
Yeah.
God. Yes.
Good. Awesome. All right. We have just a couple more minutes, like 5 more minutes. I want to be respectful. It's Sunday. So, anybody else have any other questions? Was this helpful? Um, okay, good. Good. Okay. And I know, like I said, Shelby and I have had a little bit of conversations um, so it's totally possible to have, multiple different streams of income. And as much as you can tie it back again to that one ideal client, the more everything's going to fall into place. You're not going to confuse your audience if you're always solving the same problem. Does that make sense? People worry about that. Like, I don't want to confuse my audience. I don't want to be selling too much. That's been a block for me for a long time. As long as I am consistently solving the same problem, it's not confusing. It's giving them options and meeting them where they are on the buyer's journey, because somebody might not be ready for a high-end luxurious international retreat, but they are ready for a free YouTube or a podcast episode that I do. You know what I'm saying? So don't hold back, guys. Like, you have an impact to make. And again, because I have this workshop that's coming up in just a couple days, if you feel like this is something that you need, please get a hold of me soon, because it's going to be closing, because I do want to make sure that I have all of the pieces of the puzzle ready to give an exceptional experience. So, okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And then I will make sure that I share the recording for people. If you feel like there's somebody in your circle who needs to hear this, I will send this to all of you guys, and feel free to share it, because I want all of us to be able to give the best, most impactful experience to our clients, potential clients, without burning ourselves out. That's not what God intended for us. Okay. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your day, Wendy. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you.